Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and middling middle relief pitcher with a film and media studies degree, who's currently a single dad that loves to talk about Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV shows, and comedy. I like to mix in some life lessons and funny stories along the way. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about Los Mets. The trade deadline is coming past, so I'll do my best to review each of those transactions, each of those swaps. We'll also talk about Kodai Senga and his injury. How does that impact the rotation and things moving forward? The emergence of Jose Butto, the dominance of Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana's numbers, and we're going to spread a little love to Mark Vientos. So without further ado, let's get it started up in here. All right, so the last time I talked to you was towards the end of the All-Star break, right before the Marlins series. And things were looking up. I think there was some positivity, some cautious optimism. We were only a few games above 500, but we're threatening to get into the mix in terms of a wild card spot. And we've only gotten better since then. We were 12 and a half games out when we started that Marlins series, or right after that first loss. We're only 7 games out of first, and we'll get to the outlook for the second half of the season and for the rest of the season. But in between when I talk to you and as I talk to you this very minute, had a bunch of games in between there, split the series with the Marlins, and that's just how things go with the Marlins. I mean, they are the bane of our existence. They have ruined so many seasons. Every season it feels like they ruin everything. So it doesn't matter how good they are, how bad they are. They were sellers at the deadline, dealing Chaz Chisholm to the Yankees. And we still just can't manage to get over the hump with them. So split the series there. We ended up taking it to the Yankees, who were in a bit of a spiral when we met them this past time. 3-2, 12-3, 2-game set match Mets. Then split the series against the Braves, which stinks because we got out to such a hot start. We had the walk-off win in 10 on that Thursday. We had Kodai Senga and his coming back from the injury, his first start of the season, and could be his last start of the season because he also got hurt in that game. But he did put up some solid numbers in before he left with a calf strain. Won that game 8-4, and then kind of a downer. Lost 4-0 and then 9-2 in the last 2 against Atlanta. Took out our frustrations against the Twins 15-2 in that first game against Minnesota, which I guess Minnesota was in a bit of a slide as well. So we caught them at a pretty good time, even though they are in second place. I think they were something like 3-7, 4-6 in the last 10. So not exactly excelling. And then we took the next game 2-0, lost 8-3 in the final game of that set. And then we had this Angels series, which it felt like we had such good vibes for the first 16 innings of that series. It's like, we win the opener behind the solid effort from one of our newest acquisitions via trade, 5-1 in the opener. And then, we're down 2-0 in that second game. JD Martinez has the bases juiced, and he decides to unload the bases via grand slam. We're up 4-2, and then another new acquisition that we got at the deadline blows the lead. 3-run ding dong. We lose by 1, and then we drop the final game of the set 3-2 on Sunday. Luckily, we did blank the Cardinals 6-0 in a makeup game, which was huge. I know, every game is huge, right? For a baseball fan. But we do now own the tiebreaker over the Cardinals when it comes down to the wild card race. So that's big time. I do think if we miss the playoffs and it's by a game or two, you can point to that friggin' Angels series and say, hot damn, we had wins right there begging for us to snatch them and couldn't pull it off. So that's catching you up on all them damn series. But rewind a bit to the trade deadline, our thought process going into it and then coming out of it, how things have panned out so far. According to the Zips projection system over at Fangraphs, the three positions where the Mets figure to receive worse production moving forward are second base, third base, and right field. Now, this was back in, I don't even know when. This must have been early July because the reasoning is fairly sound. Jose Iglesias is playing out of his goddamn gourd. You know, career OPS plus of 88, and this year it's 188. Hachi mama. Jeff McNeil had been struggling at the time, right? Heading into the break. You know, down year. A lot of people thought he was going to get dealt, myself included. And Starling Marte had been hurt. DJ Stewart had regressed. And so the outfield needed a boost, right? Well, third base, I don't know what the reasoning was there. Because we'll get to it, but Mark Vientos is having himself a goddamn season. So the big trade prediction that I saw was we were going to deal Brett Beatty, Brandon Sprout, the Sprout Goat, Kevin Parada, and more to the Chicago White Sox for their star lefty, Garrett Crochet? 6'6", 245, 25 years old, drafted by the Brew Crew in the 34th round of the 2017 MLB June amateur draft out of high school, and then again by the White Sox in the first round, 11th overall in the 2020 amateur draft out of the University of Tennessee. He debuted that same, September 2020, the age of 21. He pitched an inning against the Reds, struck out 2, no hits, no walks, no earned runs. He exceeded his rookie limits in 2021. He's signed through the rest of this season, 1 year, $800,000. He was an all-star this year. His 23 games started, leads the majors. If not the majors, he leads the American League. That would have been huge. I would have liked that a lot, and I don't know that you're really going to regret that move. 162 strikeouts also leads the league, and his 2.64 FIP also leads the league. That's fielding independent pitching, a stat that measures a pitcher's effectiveness at preventing home runs, walks, hit by pitch, and causing strikeouts. So, 3.19 ERA. Don't look at the record because it's the White Sox. They currently have a 20-game losing streak, for Christ's sakes. He was 6-8, but 3.19 ERA. 118 innings pitched. 12.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Also leads the league. So, my God, if they were able to pull that off, what a coup that would have been. And I think we could have firmly said without a doubt that fuck the wild card. We got a chance at the division with this guy. Sadly couldn't pull off. So, last pod I put out about the Mets, we talked about how we acquired Phil Maton from the Rays for a player to be named later, or cash. Going into the day that we traded for him, July 9th, our relievers had given up 24 runs in 22 innings. Yikes. Phil had a strong 2023 season in Houston, but has struggled somewhat in Tampa. Had a 4.58 ERA and a 1.33 WHIP before making his debut at the Mets. And he's the 31-year-old could aid in filling the gap left recently by the injury to right-hander True Smith, who is likely to require a season-ending Tommy John surgery. So How has Phil done so far? Phil, how you done, bud? You done good? Without looking at his stats, I feel like he's done fairly well. But I'm going to pull him up anyway. Because I don't want to jip you. So far so good. He's had, see here, 1-0, appeared in 10 games, ERA of 2. He's finished 3 games, 9 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned, 1 home run, but only 1 walk, 11 strikeouts, and 1 hit by pitch. He's a 2.04 ERA plus. So the early returns are good on Phil Maton. Maton. So that's a huge pickup for us. Desperately needed. The next acquisition, a little bit more under the radar, not as much pub. The Twins acquired our infielder Rylan Bannon for unknown compensation. That is mysterious, and I like it. Bannon was the 8th round draft pick by the Dodgers in 2017. He played 7 games at the major league level with the Orioles, Braves, and Astros. He had .254 with 15 home runs and an .866 OPS over 79 games for our AAA affiliate this season before getting dealt to the Twin Cities. Interesting. And I mean, it's ironic that we're saying, well, middle infield is probably going to be our biggest weakness, or second base is going to be our biggest weakness heading down the stretch. And Iglesias has not, as far as I know, fallen off a cliff. And instead, McNeil, since the All-Star break, is playing unreal. It's like I want to say 1,100 or 1,300 OPS, batting over 400. I mean, the guy is on fuego. So McNeil, and from what I heard on the broadcast, was that he is no longer defensive while batting. Meaning he's not just trying to make contact, he's trying to drive the ball. And not necessarily swinging harder, but swinging with more confidence. Not swinging to make contact, but swinging to put the ball a certain place that it's like, that's what they're saying. And, don't be passive up there. Don't be defensive. Don't be just trying to make contact. You go up there with purpose and intention, which is a lot of that on the dating apps recently, and it drives me wild. But in the batter's box, good to have purpose, intention, and look to drive the ball. So he's really turned it around. And if he can continue, obviously he'll probably regress, but if he can just regress back to, not to where he was, but like slightly where, a lot of these guys that are playing way above their heads, above their means, then, we can expect a regression, but we're hoping that the regression is not on the, to the other extreme. Next up was July 21st. The Brewers acquired our lefty Tyler J for right-handed pitcher TJ Shook. Shook's a 26-year-old righty with a lifetime 4.77 ERA in the minors. That feels like a depth insurance play. Potentially a September call-up. I don't know. At this point, we're so strapped in the pen. We need arms. So that's both at the major league level and at the minor league level. Tyler J was selected by the Twins with the 6th overall pick in 2015. He made his MLB debut with the Mets earlier this season and allowed 4 earned runs in 4 and 2/3 innings. So again, that's not a big splashy transaction, but someone who could come in down when we're overworked, could be a guy that you might see come up and make an appearance here or there. Then July 26th, this is one of the bigger moves that we made, acquiring Ryan Stanek from the Mariners for outfielder Rylan Thomas. Stanek This season, 4.38 ERA with 44 strikeouts and 17 walks in 46 appearances. Briefly took over Seattle's closer role earlier in the season, recording 7 saves. This is his 5th team in 8 years. A journeyman, some would say. In return, the Mariners get a 24-year-old minor leaguer who is the Mets' number 30 ranked prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. In his Mets debut, Stanek allowed 3 runs, 2 home runs, and a 9-2 loss to the Braves on Sunday. Yeah, that's pretty much when it all fell apart. When our boy Stanek came to the game, it was like, this is the guy? This? But with the exception of that appearance, I feel like he's done fairly well since then. His ERA is over 10. He's only appeared in 2 more games since then. So bit of a rocky start for Ryan, but I feel like he fared well. Was it against the Angels or against the Cardinals? His next 2 appearances weren't as brutal as the one against the Braves. So so you might, if you're quick on the trigger with guys like this and you're like, he's a bum, bad trade, stick a fork in him, let me give you some numbers that might boost your confidence and morale about old Ryan Stanek. Found this on Twitter. His 4-seam has a stuff plus of 107. I mean, every other day I'm learning a new stat. I played baseball my whole fucking life. Well, half my life. And never heard of all these goddamn metrics and statistics, but his stuff plus of 107, 118, and 110. I don't even know what that stat means. Just forget I ever said that. He averages 98.1 miles per hour and 18.3 IVB on his 4-seam, whatever the fuck that means. Jesus Christ. I swear people make these goddamn statistics up. God, bro. Induced vertical break. Holy shit. Sure. His splitter has a legit put-out pitch with a 45.7% whiff rate this season. Good depth, horizontal break, and above average velocity. It has an expected batting average close to 200, averages just 945 revolutions per minute for its speed that's unheard of. And his third pitch is a slider with above average velocity and an impressive 49.1% whiff rate. His expected ERA is 3.44. So, like I said, rough start, but the numbers, the geeks, the nerds, the stat heads will tell you that his stuff is good to elite across the board. Splitter, slider, 4-seamer. So we can expect better from him as the season wears on. So that potentially should be a huge pickup that should help the pen. And then July 27th, probably the one move that got the most buzz and pub, and that Mets fans have been bittersweet on for a long time. Jesse Winker, our boy. He waved bye to us, and now we get to wave hi to him. We welcome him into the clan, into the coven. We acquired him from the Nationals for right-handed pitcher Tyler Stewart. Needed a left-handed bat, and we got it. Winker turns 31 in a couple weeks. He's had a bounce-back season so far this year. Last year, not so much with the Brewers. 567 OPS in 61 games with the Brew Crew in 2023. But he had a 793 OPS with 11 home runs in 101 games for the Nats this season. Batted .257 with a .374 on-base percentage, 18 doubles, 45 ribeyes, 51 runs, 14 stolen bases with a 26 weighted runs created plus. I've finally learned what the fuck WRC plus means. But that was before he joined the Mets. What has he done since joining the Metros? He's played in 5 games, 15 plate appearances, 3 hits. So he's batting .214, .267 on base percentage, .214 slugging, OPS of 481, OPS plus of 42. So yeah, he's underperforming thus far. And I think it's a matter of just getting into the swing of things. Pun fucking intended, man. So I think that's a big pickup. That's a good pickup. I think, just like Stanek, not the great start we were hoping for, but I think he'll turn it around and he'll be an asset heading down the stretch. Will it be another Jay Bruce situation? Dear God, I hope not. That sucked. Ugh, I love Jay Bruce. And then that at the end of that 2016 season, it was just like every big moment that he had come across his face, just felt like he let us down. But Jesse Winker, I think, is now a fan favorite, right? After being a villain, I think he ultimately, after what he said about Mets fans when he was not a Met, but heaping praise on us for our tenacity, I think, he'll he's already taken to the team, and I think the fans will take to him. He's just got to pick it up a little bit. This next move was one of 2 on the deadline day. Pirates acquired our left-handed pitcher Josh Walker, and we got left-handed pitcher Nicholas Carreno. We designated Walker for assignment. He's 29 years old, had a 5.11 ERA in 12 1/3 innings this year. Made his major league debut last year. He had a 2.83 ERA in 20 2/3 innings at AAA Syracuse in 2024. I gotta see what the deal is with this Nicholas Carreno. Jesus, I don't even think. Yeah, man. So far this season, 0-1, 4.01 ERA, 9 games started, 24 2/3 innings pitched, 37 strikeouts, 1.34 WHIP. But I don't know what level that is. Okay. Looks like it's the rookie affiliate, so gonna be a while before we see him up in the bigs. But then this next, this is one of 4 moves we made on the deadline day. Mets acquired right-handed pitcher Paul Blackburn from the A's for right-handed pitcher Cade Morris. This came after, Senga goes down with the calf strain on, that Friday, July 25th against the Braves, where he looks like yeah. Anyone who's like, oh, well, we'll see. It's like, dude looked like he got shot. And it's just like he immediately, was like, went down to the ground, was holding his calf. So I don't know if we'll see him. Maybe if we make the playoffs, maybe. I don't know. But that was my point, was like, would be nice to see Senga, because if you don't see him before the trade deadline, maybe you have to wait, just the idea that you might not need a pitcher if Senga were to come back and look good and healthy and not have to give up whatever. But I think it's smart. It was smart of them to, if Senga, just for peace of mind, it would be nice to see him before the deadline, but we did. And I guess regardless, we should have went for another starting pitcher. And we got Blackburn. He was a all-star in 2022. Had a lengthy stint on the IL this season. Missed 2 months with a stress fracture in his foot. He started this season with 22 1/3 scoreless innings. Had a 4.41 ERA in 9 starts after making at least 20 starts in both 2022 and 2023. Whoa, that's fucking nuts. So he started the season. Jesus, he had 9 starts, the first 22 of which no runs. What happened? And if you averages 5 or 6 innings per start, that's like 4. That's like 3 or 4 starts. So in the remaining 5 to 6, he must have not done so well. Anyway, Mets valued his back end consistency over the last 3 years. He's posted ERAs of 4.28, 4.43, and 4.41. Yeah. Not great ERAs, but also manageable. It's like at this point, you're looking for guys that can give you innings, and they're not going to hopefully dig yourself into too big of a hole. We did have to send Oakland our number 25 prospect, the best prospect that we dealt over the course of the deadline, a right-hander, 3rd round pick last year, 3.43 ERA with high A Brooklyn, 57 and 2/3 innings with 10 starts. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but as we mentioned, Blackburn was our guy on that Friday night game against the Angels when we won 5-1, gave us 6 solid innings. So if that's what we can get out of him, you got to feel really good about our prospects. Again, a lot of people are counting us out. They're saying, yeah, we have a shot at making the playoffs, but we won't make a run because we don't have our number one. We don't have a stud workhorse that can go in the postseason. It's like, I mean, not being too much of a baseball buff, I'd have to do some research, but I would have to think that like there have been plenty of teams that don't have a clear-cut workhorse number one that win the World Series, I would think. Maybe. So early returns on him looking good. And then so this is a low-key move that could be right there with the Phil Maton trade. Maton. Mets acquired right-handed pitcher Tyler Zuber from the Rays for right-handed pitcher Paul Gervais. Zuber's only pitched in 2 games for the Rays this season. He's 29 years old and previously appeared in the majors with the Royals in 2020 and 2021. We sent back Gervais, who has a 3.25 ERA and 27 and 2/3 relief innings for AA Binghamton. Is this Stanek or is this who this? Oh, did we not? Did we not? Well, that's unfortunate. All right. I just saw. Maybe he didn't. So yeah, he's yet to make an appearance for the Mets, but I just saw. I get the Mets newsletter, and I could have sworn I saw. Yeah, here it is. Mets traded for an obscure reliever at the deadline. Why his story matters. When someone told Tyler Zuber he needed to meet with Tampa Bay Rays manager Kevin Cash late Tuesday afternoon, the unsung 29-year-old right-hander started counting the pitchers left on the roster. Leading up to the trade deadline on Tuesday, the Rays acted as one of the baseball's busiest teams. Inside the clubhouse, players like Zuber said they were glued to their phones, wondering which of the teams would go next to go. Teammates would be next to go. Zuber, who the Rays had recalled from AAA just a few days prior, assumed Cash was about to tell him that the club was sending him back to the minors. Instead, Cash shared some unexpected information. Zuber had just been traded inside Cash's office. Zuber looked down at his feet upon hearing the news and expressed surprise. Yeah, you've just been traded to the New York Mets. Are you sure? Are you sure you're talking about me? The trade deadline doesn't have a Mr. Irrelevant, but Zuber would be on the short list if it did. Each summer, teams deal prospects that many fans never heard of, but they don't typically exchange them for players with a similar level of anonymity. So what intrigued David Stearns about Zuber? Who is he? Stearns smiled and said, "This is an interesting story." As Zuber later explained, he was on the verge of hanging up his cleats just a handful of months ago. Emotionally, he was just about done with baseball. 6th-round pick from the Royals in 2017, made 54 appearances for the Royals over 2020 and 2021. Where they put him on waivers in 2022, he bounced from the Diamondbacks to the Guardians without making an appearance. Guardians released him last March, worked his way back from shoulder surgery. His velocity, previous year working on his mechanics, his velocity was up to around 95. Developed a sweeper. that jumped off the page, according to scouts. Pitched really well with the Long Island Ducks, which I have a buddy who pitched for the Ducks. In 6 games and 5 2/3 innings, had a 1.59 ERA with 2 saves and 10 Ks. His stint with the Ducks persuaded major league teams to give him another chance. With AAA Durham, he logged a 2.49 ERA in 21 2/3 innings with 29 strikeouts and 6 walks before receiving a promotion. The Mets have been trying to acquire Zuber for the past couple of weeks, Stearns said. Tampa Bay insisted on receiving a minor league player in return. Mets and Rays agreed to a trade involving Zuber with about 2 hours to spare on deadline day. Mets optioned Zuber to AAA Syracuse, but New York expects him to be part of the bullpen depth. Stearns has demonstrated a knack for acquiring anonymous relievers and getting production from them. Jake Cousins and Justin Topa come to mind. I've thought about this, and being that low really opened up my eyes to where I could see the big picture. Zuber said, getting to the lowest point, I feel very strongly was God's way of humbling me and saying, hey, listen, you've been at the top, you've been in the major leagues, you've had success with there, so now I'm going to take you all the way back down to the roots, and we're going to start from the ground up again. Okay. Yeah, could be a hell of a story. Wish I had, I wish I could see how he's doing with the Syracuse Mets so far. I don't know if they have stats, individual stats. Loading. Oh, they're going to do that to me, huh? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Nuts. 7 days? Anyone? Bueller? Oh. Yeah, I don't know that I'm seeing. No, dude. I just want to see. All right. This is annoying. This is officially annoying. All right. So he did pitch. Against the Reds, 2 innings, 1 hit, 2 Ks, 1 walk. And then, against the Yankees, 1 1/3, 2 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 2 Ks. Right? Am I crazy? Yeah, we optioned him to AAA on July 31st. So what the fuck is this noise? I'm so completely lost. Anyway, I don't know. Could be a sneaky guy that they call up out of the pen. His number was Syracuse, 0-1, 9 ERA in 2 games, 2 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 home run, 1 strikeout, 429 opponents batting average, 3 whips. So I don't know, probably not gonna. Whatever. And then the last of our trade deadline moves required Huascar Brazoban from the Marlins for Wilfredo Lara. Brazoban recorded a 2.93 ERA over 30 2/3 innings out of the Marlins bullpen. Hasn't allowed an earned run over his last 10 appearances dating back to June 30th. Well, good. He won't be eligible for arbitration until 2026 and represents the 4th reliever the Mets have acquired prior to the deadline. Lara, the guy we gave up, is our number 22 prospect, comes with a 60 grade speed and a 60 grade arm per MLB pipeline. No idea if that's out of 100. Sounds like it's not great, but maybe it's out of 60. So, and Brazoban's the guy that ultimately cost us the win against the Angels. So, also not a fantastic start for Brazoban. But, new location, new digs, just give you a week or 2 to settle in. We'll give you that much, right? So The Athletic published its trade deadline big board. There was a list of 50 players with the potential to be moved by July 30th. There was an additional 36 players considered for the list, all the way down to a reliever from Washington named Derek Law. The Mets traded for only 1 of those 86 players. So, what does that mean? You could see fewer starts for Tyler McGill, which could be a good thing. I mean, you so rarely see him pitch into the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning ever as a starter, but he does look really good and dominant for like 2 or 3 of the innings of his starts. So it's like maybe he just is better suited coming out of the pen. Fewer innings for Eric Orze, and then in the lineup, fewer at bats for DJ Stewart, which I don't think anyone's crying about that. He's been pretty down and off this year. We designated Jake Diekman for assignment, and we did not add a lefty reliever. We're currently carrying 3 lefties, Danny Young, and then waiver wire pickups Alex Young and Matt Gage. But we are expected to see the returns of Neal Nunez, Reed Garrett, and Sean Reed Foley from the injury list. So Neal Nunez, who was pitching simply fantastique before he got hurt. Reed Garrett, who off to the hot start, had like 7 wins, the most of any pitcher for a long time, and then kind of hit a wall. And then Sean Reed Foley, who can be kind of hit or miss, but I think of the bullpen options that we have currently available, he was like one of our strongest, I think. The addition of Blackburn is huge. Obviously with Senga going down, but knowing that Christian Scott went down with an injury and could be battling that for the rest of the season. Luis Severino is on pace for 95 more innings than he threw all of last season, and his most since 2018. Jose Quintana is on pace for 98 more innings than he threw last season and his most since 2018. Sean Manaea is on pace for 45 more innings than he threw last season and his most since 2021. So, yeah, that's a bit concerning. On the plus side of that, it's like, wow, they're getting more innings than usual than they have recently, which means they're pitching better than they have in recent years past. But it also, there's that idea of like, is it a ticking time bomb? Are we running out of time with them? Is it only a matter of time before they're once we get into we're talking 90 innings, 45, 90, 45. We're talking, 95, 5 is about 20. No, that can't be it. Well, it's good. It's both the good, but it also is it's a little concerning. It's like, can they hold up? Basically, that's the big question, right? They're all pitching the best that they've pitched in Severino and Quintana's case, 5 years, 4, 5, 6 years. In Manaea's case, a couple of years, 3, 4 years. So, Blackburn, gave us 6 against the Angels. Can he continues to give us 5 or 6? We last year, to accommodate Kodai Senga, we moved to a 6-man rotation. Is that going to continue? It looks like it might have to if we want to try and preserve Severino, Quintana, Manaea. Peterson, for the most part, has stepped up and has done fairly well. I know there's like a game here or there where he kind of goes off the rails, but I think he's more reliable than McGill at this point. And then there was a big question of whether or not you want to bring Buto into the mix, into the rotation, starting rotation. He's been so good out of the pen that you kind of don't want to mess with that. But at the same time, you still, if you don't want to tax your pen even more, you need the starting pitching to get you to eat up innings. So, according to some sources, we checked in on obtaining Blake Snell from the Giants, Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. But the asking prices were too high. I think Blake Snell just threw a no-hitter. So, that was, Blake Snell has been on Mets fans' minds and tongues for so long. It feels like, and he was one of the top free agents that was kind of in consideration, but I don't know, the Mets fan base was just not all in on him. And then he goes out and throws a no-hitter. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what the asking price would have been, but so the calf strain, Kodai Senga threw 5 1/3 in his Mets 2024 debut. Gave up a run or two, something like that. In the I want to say the 6th inning, 7th inning. This is a tweet I saw. Most commonly, or an X. I don't know if you can call it a tweet or an X. Most commonly, the calf strains are. These are to the gastrocnemius muscle. That doesn't sound right. Gastrocnemius muscle, but sometimes the soleus is involved. I'm the son of a doctor. I should be able to pronounce this shit. If it's a mild grade 1, it's usually 10 days to 2 weeks. If it's a moderate grade 2, it's closer to 4 weeks. There's a very high risk of re-injury, so returning too quickly is usually counterproductive. So it is funny that, like, heading into the trade deadline, we were all talking about, like, the biggest acquisition we're going to make, or biggest move we're going to make, is getting Kodai Senga back from injury. And then, of course, we lose him. So, I guess the big takeaway there is, like, let's take your time, man, as much time as you need. And if you need the rest of this season to get right and feel right, fine. I don't think there's, if we can get him back for the postseason, I don't know that I read that message like the night he got injured. So I wonder if we had any updates on it. Oh, nope. Meow. Oh, likely out for the rest of the season. I don't buy that. High grade strain. Ooh. Pretty much done for the regular season. Even an October run doesn't guarantee Senga getting back on the mound this year. Huh. Yeah, he's saying 8 to 10 weeks. Woof. All right, well, yeah. Let's just proceed as if we will not see him pitch again, and if we do, then great. Yeah, so that means, now, all right, okay. Just when we thought everything was going our way. So Severino, Manaea, Quintana, Peterson, Blackburn. I guess, are you going to get Scott back? Then Buto, Lucchesi. Yay, dude. Peterson, Severino, Blackburn, Manaea, Ottavino, Quintana. Peterson, Severino, Blackburn, Manaea, Quintana. Yeah, damn, dude. I would like to have one more. I would like to have one more, and it's definitely not McGill, is it? That's why Christian Scott. Prayer circle for Christian Scott, real quick. Right UCL sprain. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so Christian Scott is going to start a throwing program in the next few days, getting positive results, have a better idea of his timeline once he starts throwing, dedicated to doing what's right. He was placed on IL back on July 23rd with a right UCL sprain. So, woof. It wasn't exactly, he had a great debut. And then had a couple of rough spots here and there. But goddamn, it'd be nice to have him in the mix. He's 0-3 with a 4.56 ERA in 9 games started. But 3.25 strikeouts to walks ratio and 7.4 strikeouts per 9. Only 2.3 walks per 9, but was prone to the long ball. Of the starting rotation, he had a 1.5 home runs per 9, just edging out Quintana. 1.204 whip was the lowest of the starters behind Manaea. So, yeah, it's a huge blow. Kodai Senga's a huge blow. Could you imagine if Senga and Scott are both healthy? Oh my God, is anyone stopping us? that's legitimately. I think you stick to the 6-man rotation. You keep Peterson in the mix. Throw him out against, in a rubber match against teams like the Rockies or whatever. But alas, now we need to lean on him more heavily, and we'll see about Blackburn. 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 6 Ks. That's a pretty good start. So yeah, I guess you do keep Buto in the pen as of right now, because as a reliever, 13 2/3 innings pitched, 3-0 in 7 games, 0.66 ERA, 0.59 WHIP, 0.075 batting average against, 1 save and 2 holds. I mean, I don't know how you take that away. And although he held his own as a starter here and there, he did get knocked around a little bit. So, I mean, obviously, if anyone else goes down, like if Peterson goes down, if God forbid, knock on all the wood. But if someone does go down, then yeah, I think you do have to. I mean, do you put Buto back on the rotation or McGill? Ugh. Maybe you 2-prong it. Can you do that? It's like what the Rockies used to do that, where it's like they'd have an opener who throws like an inning or two, and then they go on to the bullpen. So like every 5th start was a bullpen game. Instead, you'd have a 2-headed monster of Buto and McGill, where it's like whoever starts hotter gets the start, and then after 2-3 innings, you pass it on to the other guy who gives you 2 or 3 innings. Could they both go 3 innings, give us 6? I don't know. So that's the big dilemma for Mendoza, I think. Meanwhile, our starting pitching is kind of thriving. The guys that we do have healthy and active, Sean Manaea, case in point, we're 14-7 when he starts this season. He had back-to-back double-digit strikeout games, which he's one of 3 lefty pitchers in Mets history to do that. I saw there was a graphic where it's like 90% of his fastballs were in the upper third of the plate, and that is a major reason for why he's successful, which, I was always taught keep the ball low, try and keep it low, and tight, low on the outside, low. But they did mention, I think it was Ronnie mentioned, like he's got that rise on the fastball. So if you are going to get it up in the zone, make sure it's a riser. That way the guy can't really get a good beat on it, or at least get good wood on it. And then Jose Quintana has the lowest ERA by a National League pitcher since June 15th. Yeah, and Manaea too. They were putting up numbers in the broadcast. What was it? Against Cardinals? He has like a sub-2, around a 2 ERA with Alvarez behind the dish. So guys are pitching great. Quintana, 1.91 ERA is the 3rd lowest ERA by National League pitcher since June 15th. Paul Skenes, sensation from Pittsburgh, All-Star, 1.52. Hunter Green, 1.71. So it's funny. I mean, the way that the season's playing out, we could look back if we make a run, or even if we, do the thing where we go all the way. We're going to look back and be like, how the fuck were Quintana, Manaea, and Severino not serious, like, all-star considerations? But we know the all-star game is a sham and a hoax. Mark Vientos deserves all the flowers. He now has 25 home runs in his first 143 career games. That places him 5th behind David Wright. Or no, he's tied with David Wright, 25. Francisco Alvarez had 27 his first 143 games. Darryl Strawberry 31 and Pete Alonso 47. So in good company there. And then Vientos also ranks among. Here are his ranks among third basemen at the major league level with a minimum of 200 plate appearances. He's second in slugging percentage behind Rafael Devers. Second in OPS behind Rafael Devers. He's second behind Rafael Devers in weighted runs created plus. He's sixth in batting average, tied for eighth in FWAR, and tied for 10th in home runs with 15. He has as many home runs as Brandon Nimmo in 40 less games. And Nimmo is nothing to sneeze at, man. 285, 15 ding-dongs, 40 RBIs, 895 OPS, 894 OPS. Every time they put up his stat line, I get a little jolt. I get a little, there's like a little bit of like a gasp audibly. I'm like, oh my God, we found our third baseman. So, all those questions on X, Twitter, what have you, like, is this the guy? Have we found our third baseman? The answer is emphatically yes. This is not just like, oh, he got hot for a week or he got hot for a month. Like, he's been a consistently good performer for a lengthy amount of time now. He's played in almost 70 games? That's a pretty healthy sample, So, yeah, I mean, glad to have you. Where would we be without him? So, yeah, I think he's contributed to like 2 or 3 wins directly. So you're looking at 2 or 3 more losses. You're looking at, we might not be, if the season ended, we wouldn't be a wild card team. So, awesome. I mean, as much as we've been frustrated by the core, quote unquote, Nimmo, Alonso, McNeil, Lindor to a certain extent, but like the guys that, came up through our system, the young prospects that have finally made it to the major leagues, and like they're going to be our guys that we're going to lean on. And they've shown flashes here and there, but they haven't really taken it to the next level. To see that we already have the next kind of wave coming up and performing well in Alvarez and Vientos, and let us not forget Ronnie Mauricio, gives you a lot of hope. And guess what? Hope floats. Sandra Bullock. Since the beginning of June, the Mets have been the best team in baseball. Best record in baseball over the past 50 games, 34-16. The 2 best records in the second half of a season in Mets franchise history came in playoff years. 1969 and 1988. 69, World Series dub. 88, we should have won. Fucking Dodgers. And Oral Hershiser. Their third best, so our third best record in the second half of the season came in a year in which we didn't make the postseason. It was the year that this here pod started, 2019. So, that was probably one of the best, if not the best, non-playoff Mets season or team to watch. There were a bunch in the 80s. I didn't get to watch a ton of them because I had lived in Westwood at the time, which is a suburb of Boston, which you don't get a lot of Mets games up in that area. But that was, so I was familiar. I followed them in the box score and the newspapers and whatnot, radio, Sports Center, all that good stuff. But in terms of seeing them live, like, didn't get to watch a ton of games live unless it was the game of the week or the postseason, which, but non-playoff teams. Yeah. So 2019 was a team that was like, man, if we ever did make the playoffs, how fun would that be? We went 46-26. We were just mere percentage points better than 1985's team, which went 48-28. So not the most wins, but winning percentage wise, better than 1985's squad. And that was the best second half performance for non-playoff team since the 1980 Baltimore Orioles. So as much as I love the 2019 team, as many thrills, chills, and spills as they gave us, and fuck, you can go back into the goddamn annals and archives and library in the vault to check out my episodes about the Mets in 2019. And it was like, what a time to be alive. But still missed the playoffs. So let's keep it exciting, keep winning, but let's also make the playoffs. That'd be great. And as banged up as we are in some pretty key areas, and who knows what we can expect out of guys like Iglesias and Vientos and even McNeil, who has now come alive. Like, is that sustainable? Who knows? I want the division. It's like the wild card. Like, it's. I remember before the season started, we were like, I'll be happy with a wild card, like a 7 wild card seed. I'll just be happy to get in the playoffs. If we just get in the playoffs or threaten for the number 7 spot, I'll be happy, because everyone had us pinned as like, this is a rebuilding year. We're going to suck, blah, blah. With the Phillies struggling like they are, I mean, I don't pay too close attention to other teams, but Atlanta, it's hard not to notice that Atlanta is beat the fuck up. They got injuries left and right. At one point we were like 10 games behind them at the end of May, and then we after we won the first 2 games of that series, I think we like surpassed them, and since then we have now fallen back another game and a half or something like that. But they're beat up, and Philly is not as invincible as we thought they were. Just like the Yankees, what was it, early June, late May, when we're like, wow, Mets are this is awful. That's when the Yankees and Phillies were like the 2 best teams in baseball, running away with their divisions, running away with everything. They have both fallen back down to earth. And as much as the Yankees were struggling and playing some really bad baseball, I did not realize that Philadelphia, not great. Especially Bryce Harper. He's like 1 for his last 31 or something like that at the plate. So Philly is in free fall mode. So now it's like, let's just win the whole goddamn thing. Let's just take the friggin' division. Look at this from the Phillies. Ooh, brother. Let's go here. They have a 99% chance of making the postseason. We have it was above 50%, and then that friggin' Angels series. So I think we dipped below 50%, but what are they? All right, let's go down here. Yeah, look at this. What is this, since the All-Star break? Since the All-Star break, walk-off lost the Pirates. So they lost 2 or 3 of the Pirates. They lose 2 or 3 of the Twins with another walk-off loss. They lose 2 of 3 to the Guardians. They get swept by the Yankees, and they lose 2 of 3 of the Mariners, and they just lost to the Dodgers. Yikes, bro. So and I don't know that they were that crazy. So entering the All-Star break, the Phillies were 62-34. They're now 66-46. Wow. They're 4-13 since the All-Star break. Oh, brother. And they're only 5.5 games ahead of the Braves, and they're only 7 games ahead of us. So it's going to be an interesting final. What is it? 60 games? How many games we got left up in this bitch? No, 112, I'm singing. Yeah, 112 games. So we got 50 games left. I tell you what, games I'm looking forward to. We have a 4-game set against the Phillies in mid-ish to late September. That's going to be huge. And then, we have 2 big series against the Phillies coming down the pipe. We have a 3-game set at home in the mid-September, 13th to the 15th. And then we have another, that's at Philly. No, sorry, that's Ay, ay, ay. That's at Philly, yeah. And then we host them for 4 games from the 19th to the 22nd. So that stretch from the 13th to the 22nd, oh boy, if we're 7 games back still, heading into that series, very, very interesting. So, but first we got to friggin' take care of biz. You know, you don't want to look ahead as a player, but as a fan, it's fucking fun, man. Tell you that much. That's not a good look. I don't like that. Oh, and we're down 4-2. Great. So, yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna drop this game against the Rockies. It's just you can't. It's like they're really putting the Mets through the ringer during this stretch. This fucking road trip from hell. But hopefully you can get right the next 2 games against the Rockies. Just try not to get hurt against the Mariners. Absolutely take it to the fucking Athletics. There gotta be a sweep. And then it doesn't get, I don't know, it doesn't really get a whole lot easier down the stretch. But I don't know. I still feel good about the Metros. You know, even though Severino's kind of struggling again tonight, like he did his last start. This Brozabon guy. Ay. 2 games, 16 ERA. Yeah, so the new guys, other than Blackburn, not so hot, but you got to think they'll turn it around. And yeah, let's just go win the division. Fuck it. Fuck the wild card. I want the division. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. That's all I got. Next Mets episode, probably will come towards the end of August, I would think. Do a little review of August, maybe. Look ahead for, might look at some September call-ups. And hopefully at that point, we are within even closer striking distance where we can actually taste Philly's farts. We're that close in proximity to first place. So until that time, gotta believe, let's go Mets. Adios, muchachos.